What is up, though, Lions fans? It's your boy Motor City Don P back once again. And when I'm back, you know that the Motor City Cats are back at it. Came to give you stats, not none of that static. Whatever you do, make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. So we got some things that we're going to get into today. Of course, we're going to be talking about your Detroit Lions, and we're going to be talking about the draft fallout. We're going to get into some way too early stuff. That's really kind of the theme of the show, the way too early stuff. As we talk about, are there just some things that the Detroit Lions will not do? And I think we know what they will not do. However, we may not know what they will not do. So we all know that Brad Holmes went on 97.1 the ticket, and there was the infamous, well, Brad, you do understand why the fan base is asking you about the edge rusher, right? No, I do not. He had a Kanye moment. He definitely had a Kanye moment. He was, no, I do not. How, Sway? Right? So he didn't understand why people were asking him about the edge rusher situation. And then that led into some other things. It was a whole patronizing conversation about how, what was it? About how basically, yeah, how the fan base's children, because that's the way he was talking to us, there's one elite edge rusher on every 5 teams in the league and blah 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 blah. Okay. Not asking you about extra elite people, okay? But then an article came out. Okay? So in this article, there was speculation that the Detroit Lions tried to trade up for an edge rusher, for a first round edge rusher that had limited college production. Do you guys think you know who that is? Who was a first round edge rusher that was selected that had a limited college production? Shout out to Jihad Campbell, by the way. I saw him, he was at the Eagles facility rocking a number 30 jersey. You know what I'm saying? Had the little high top fade, a little Gumby going on. Shout out to him. He could have been a Detroit Lion. You wouldn't have had to trade up for him. That's all I'm saying. Could have kept your assets and you could have selected Jihad Campbell. But it's fine. All right. Who do y'all think it was? Do you have any guesses on who this first round edge rusher was? Because I'll tell you. What is this? Y'all playing games over here. Broski. Lord have mercy. But this article is from Athlon Sports, and they're trying to get me to turn my ad blocker off. All right. This is ridiculous. Usually you get people don't force you to turn your ad blocker off. They generally just go, hey, turn your ad blocker off, consider this, or, we and then they'll give you a, whatchamacallit, like an opportunity to not do that. And it's like, oh, they'll just have some little snarky message. All right, well, just continue on without supporting us then if you want to block our ads. Anyway, all right, let's get this chat back up here. All right, so says Lions writer believes the team tried to trade up for the first round edge rusher with limited college production. I believe that it is Shamar Stewart. Um, he's again first round. So who was it? If it wasn't Shamar Stewart, then who was it? Because Shamar Stewart fits their profile, right? He fits their profile. He fits what they like to do. He fits who they are and what they are and all these things. All right. So it says a writer who covers the Detroit Lions believes the team tried to trade up for an edge rusher who was selected in the top 20 of the 2025 NFL draft. It's got to be Shamar Stewart, right? Because Shamar Stewart went 17 to the Bengals. Okay. So let's see who it was. All right. It seems the Detroit Lions may have really tried to fix their biggest issue early in this year's NFL draft. The team was expected to pursue an edge rusher early in the draft to give themselves a better option than Marcus Davenport to complement Aiden Hutchinson. They didn't end up drafting an edge until the 6th round. The Lions still bolstered their defense in the 1st round. Okay, so this is why I have ad blocker on. All right. In the 1st round, drafting defensive tackle Tyleik Williams. A to Z Sports Mike Payton believes the team tried to go in a different direction before making that pick. He thinks the team tried to trade for edge rusher Shamar Stewart, as I said, who was selected 17th overall by the Cincinnati Bengals. Payton pointed to a quote from GM Brad Holmes as evidence the team tried to trade up for an edge rusher. Says, I don't need to get into specifics, but there were times we made attempts to get one, and they got picked before. You couldn't get up. It takes two to trade. All right. The only edge rushers taken within a range the Lions could have traded into were Stewart and James Pierce Jr. Payton also pointed out that Stewart is the only first-round edge rusher the Lions hosted a visit with before the draft. This is also true, right? They also could have potentially moved up for Pierce if he was the player they wanted, as the Texans only got 2 third-rounders out of Giants to move back to the 2nd round from pick 25. Pierce went 26th. Finding a trade partner in front of the Bengals' 17th pick would have been very expensive for the Lions. It would have required them to move up at least 12 spots, and it says the any team, but it probably should be the only team they'd have made an offer to would have been taking a big risk. So it should be and any team they'd made. Yeah. Okay. So there's typos. Guys, if you are putting anything out, if you're a journalist, a reporter, anything, make sure you spell check and proofread. That's all you got to do is proofread. It's simple. It's quick. You right now, you can just put it into AI. If you're not good enough to proofread, you can do it yourself. So the Cardinals would have been moving behind the Steelers, who also took a defensive tackle. The Falcons would have been giving up Jalen Walker and also had to move up to 26 to make sure they got Pierce, so they weren't going back to 28. The Colts definitely weren't getting a tight end of Tyler Warren's caliber if they moved back. Not moving up seems to have worked out for the Lions. You think? Maybe. Stewart didn't produce as a pass rusher in college, but is already very good against the run, which could mean that will be where he has his biggest impact in the NFL. The Lions ended up getting a run stuffer of their own in Williams, but without having to give up extra draft capital to make it happen. No, they just gave up extra draft capital to get a receiver in the 3rd round. Yeah. Okay. So the Lions may have wanted to get themselves an edge in round 1, but how things played out might have worked out better for them, even if they were left with one obvious weakness on their roster. I don't know how you're better because you've left an obvious weakness on your roster. How does that make you better? Like, if you are trying to go up and you're trying to fill that need, and it's, again, as Brad Holmes said, it's the player, right? The player has to be good enough to play that position if you're trying to draft a position. So it doesn't matter which position you're trying to draft. The player is what is most important. That's the crux of the entire issue. If the player is not good, it doesn't matter what the position is. If the player is good, it doesn't matter what the position is. And that's how you get into moving two future third round picks for Isaac Tesla because he was your favorite player in the draft or favorite wide receiver in the draft. So you moved and you got him. You overpaid 100%. But that's what you did. So here's my thing. I don't know. He said there were times that we tried to get one and it just didn't happen. And, sometimes they were selected before. Well, do we know he's talking about this particular draft? Right? He could have tried to move up to get Shamar Stewart. And it just depends on who you're trading with, because there were some trades that went on that I think with the Jaguars trade, right? They didn't give up too much to go up to 5th, right? They just swap, they always swap picks, but then they didn't give up much. And then there was somebody else, I don't remember the trade. It was like, man, you gave up a whole bunch to go up there, and the Jaguars didn't give up that much. So it depends. Chip Bradshaw says cutting Z makes no sense at this point. Yeah, we are going to get into that a little bit later, Chip. That's some of the material that we got. We got some of that stuff. All right. Now here's the thing. I'll get into this issue and then I will then we'll get into some of the other stuff. But here's something as well that I saw, and this is basically what I based this show on today. Okay, so we have a way too early mock draft. Okay, I'm not focusing on the mock draft at all. Obviously, it's for next year, and we saw this year that doing mock drafts is purely for fun. It is purely for fun. It is not going to give you really any insight into what the Detroit Lions are going to do. And if you're looking at all the mock drafts, the Todd McShays, the what's his name, Mel Kiper, hell, even Peter Schrager, right? Everybody looks at Peter Schrager as his mock draft is the most accurate because he's doing his mock draft based on things he's hearing. Peter Schrager did not have the Detroit Lions taking Tyleik Williams, or I don't believe any of the players that they took. Maybe Tate Ratledge. Tate Ratledge was a popular one going to the Detroit Lions. So as we've found out this year for sure, and this is why I titled the show on the thumbnail, Making Peace. We got to make peace with this. Okay? We got to make peace with this. Fans of the show, fans of other creators, y'all also need to make peace with the fact that as Lions fans, we like to project players to be on our team. We like to look at players who are good and say, hey, I would like this player to be on my team. And then when we do a mock draft and we'll say, oh, I selected such and such player. Okay. If you're one of those people who's like, oh, you're not the GM, you don't know what Brad Holmes is going to do, blah, 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 blah. Why are you here? You know what I mean? Like we all just get involved in the content. This is why I like to go live so that I can talk to my chat, talk to the people that want to talk, right? This is why we are here together. It is a community of Lions fans, right? Now, if you are a person that has friends that, yeah, you got a group chat. If you're in a group chat and someone says, hey, man, you know what? I think the Lions should drive such and such. And then you shoot back with, you're not the GM. You don't need to be in that group chat because you don't really understand the dynamics of groups chatting, right? It's discussion topics, right? There were so many people, and I don't mean to go too far off the rails, but there are people. One of them has recently been removed from my channel. Okay. He's been hidden. He's been blocked. So you'll never see him here again. Who just, they're so caught up in themselves and so caught up in, oh, well, you know, Brad Holmes is the master. Brad Holmes knows all, right? And they have statues and shrines of Brad Holmes in their house where you can't question decisions and you also can't project your own decisions, right? You get criticized. Oh, you're looking at Mel Kiper's big board. Actually, I wasn't. However, Mel Kiper gets paid to do this. Mel Kiper makes a hell of a lot more money than I do to do this, right? To be a draft prognosticator. And he's often wrong, right? But people need NFL content so much that even a guy that's often wrong because he's not in the rooms, he's not in the draft rooms, he's not in the war rooms, he's not in any of those rooms. He's a quote unquote NFL insider. He may have a little bit of insight, but this guy, every single, he was just like the rest of us. Every single mock draft, he mocked an edge rusher to the Detroit Lions, which is why he gave them a C when he graded their draft, because he said specifically, I did 4 mock drafts, and every time I did it, I mocked an edge rusher to the Detroit Lions. He even mocked James Pierce to us in his first mock draft, right? So, let me see. I'm gonna pull this up. My chat today is hiding. What up, though, Tactical Sport? So this was the point. He said this, and that's why I gave him a C. So this is what we do. Okay, we have conversations about things, and it's healthy, and it's fun, and it's cathartic, and it's all these things. If you're a party pooper, okay, that doesn't want to talk about the draft, and you want us to sit there, you just want me to sit there and look at the camera, this is not for you. I'm going to talk about the draft. Okay, going forward, I'm going to talk about people I believe that should be drafted, will be a good fit here. However, I'll probably couch it by saying, but you know, Brad Holmes is not going to listen to me anyway. So that is what that is. Good evening, Belinda Brown. Who do you think was the steal of the draft? I don't think so. You mean for the Detroit Lions or just the steal of the draft? Like the entire draft. Because if we do that, I'm just gonna go a first rounder. I believe right now the steal of the draft in the first round was Jihad Campbell. And I know y'all know that I was gonna say that because that was my dude that I really, 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 really wanted the Detroit Lions to take. And the Philadelphia Eagles just sat there, didn't do anything, and let the Philadelphia native fall to them at number 32. So, yes. Chip Bradshaw says picking the draft is like predicting the weather. Well, see, it's much more accurate when we predict the weather because we got the tools up there in the stratosphere. But again, if you look even with the weather, there are tea leaves, right? Right? When you look at the sky and it's gray, you're like, yeah, it's probably going to rain today. And now, if you say it's probably going to rain today and the sky just stays gray and it doesn't actually do any raining, technically you're wrong. But if someone comes along and calls you an idiot and calls you stupid or casual or whatever because you looked at the sky and said, it's gray, it looks like it's probably going to rain, that person is a jackass. Why? Because I am looking at clear visual evidence of the fact that the sky is gray, and before rain happens, the sky is 99% of the time gray. Okay? I'm looking at clear visual evidence. So the same with when we look at the draft and we look at our roster and we look at what happened the season prior, and then we look at what's going to happen this coming season as far as our opponents, which shout out May 14th. So in a couple weeks, pretty much, the schedule reveal will be here. Obviously, tap in with me. I will talk about the schedule. The reveal is going to happen before I go online. So before I go live. So just tap in with me. We'll talk about it. We'll give our way too early predictions about who what the Lions record is going to be and things of this nature. All right. But if someone does that, like someone calls you an idiot and all this stuff, it's just like, well, what is it that you want me to do? You want me to just sit and look at the sky and say nothing? Right? You want me to just go, hey, Just start pointing at the clouds, right? Um, Chip Bradshaw said, "I'm out if you're just sitting here looking at the camera." Exactly. But that's what some people want. They don't want you to say anything about anything because you're not Brad Holmes and you're not the GM and you don't work for the team and so on and so forth. Well, the team, Tim Twentyman does a podcast. He doesn't work for the team, but he is the premier team insider. Like, well, I guess he actually does work for the team in some capacity. He works for their media arm, right? He does a podcast. Go watch his podcast. It's called 20 Minutes in the Huddle. If you didn't know, now you know. If you're one of those people who can't stand when other people talk about things and give their opinions, then go watch the podcast of Tim Twentyman. That's the only one that you should watch. That's the only one, right? Because everybody else is going off of opinion. We're going off of passion because we are fans of the team. Some of us are in it just for notoriety. Some of us like to call ourselves the Detroit Lions whisperer, which is wild and crazy, right? Some of us believe that we are more important than we actually are. And I'm pretty sure if you put your head to it, you can think of who exactly I'm talking about, who those people are. Tactical Sports says, how many primetime games you think we will get? I think at least 4. At least 4 probably is correct because you got to look at our schedule is so damn stacked, bro. Like I said, and this is why I'm fearful for this season. Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes. Like, at least 2 of those games have to be primetime, right? Jaden Daniels, I think that's a way as well. Like, they just gave us a murderer's row of stuff. But we'll find out May 14th. But until then, Tactical Sport, you're not allowed to think about it. You're not allowed to think about it. You're not allowed to ask questions. You can't speculate because May 14th is coming, and that's when we will see the schedule. So just sit back, wait, get your popcorn ready, and relax until May 14th. Up until then, I don't want to hear you say anything about the schedule. I don't want to hear you say foot or ball. Oh, Shannon Sharp. Anyway, that 4 isn't including the Thanksgiving game. I think the Thanksgiving game is moving to, isn't it moving to 1:00? Because it's generally 12:30. I think they're just moving it back 30 minutes. Is that considered a prime time? I guess it would be considered somewhat prime time on special circumstances because that's the only thing that's on, and everyone is gathered around the TV and stuff like that. So I guess. I'm not talking about Jeff Okuda. I'm not. I was talking about a Lions person, not a Lions person, but a person that fancies himself as someone important who talks about the Lions. So here's the it's considered prime time because it's one of 3 games. Yeah. All right. Well, in the traditional sense of prime time, we might get 4. I don't know who we're playing on Thanksgiving. So, yeah, but I mean, I could see all of those quarterbacks being primetime games. Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Jaden Daniels. I could see all of them being primetime. Chip Bradshaw, you know what I'm talking about. So we're gonna get into this little mock draft thing, and this is where we're gonna have to make our peace, and I need y'all to talk through it with me and help me come to grips. Okay. It says the Lions draft defensive end in way too early 2026 mock drafts. Have we learned nothing? Have we learned nothing? It is a week out from the draft. Okay? And We do a way too early mock draft, and we talking about the Lions drafted a defensive end. I want you to be right, whoever you are who made this mock draft. I want you to be 100% correct. But I don't know that we learned anything, because that's not the case, right? It's not. We don't have confirmation from Brad Holmes that he tried to trade up for Shemar Stewart. We don't have confirmation. We have speculation, right? Unless and until I get confirmation from Brad Holmes that he tried to draft an edge rusher, just like he said he tried to trade for Danielle Hunter, just like we know that he tried to trade for Myles Garrett, right? We know that those things happened. Okay? When you're saying stuff like, well, we've already got an elite edge rusher, Aiden Hutchinson. How many would you say are in the league? 5 or 6? Yeah, that's fair. So now all these fans are like, oh, they're mad because we've got Aiden Hutchinson and he's so good. And like, why don't you just get another one? None of us said that. None of us said that. When we said get another one, we just meant edge rusher. Okay? Because you don't have another one on your roster except for Marcus Davenport, who can't stay healthy. Okay? Tactical Spark says, I already know he isn't drafting an edge rusher. I'll never mock the Lions to draft an edge rusher again. Brad Holmes has broken this man. Brad Holmes has broken this man. He said, I will never mock the Detroit Lions to draft an edge rusher again. See what you're doing, Brad? See what you're doing, Brad? You're breaking the fan base. All right? You're ruining lives and dreams, right? You're trampling on hopes. Come on, Brad. Don't be a villain. I know you wear the hoodie, but don't be a villain, man. Come on now. All right. So it says the 2025 NFL draft has come and gone. This is from Detroit Lions on SI, by the way, Vito Chirco. The 2025 NFL draft has come and gone, which means it's time now to look at the way too early 2026 mock drafts. These mock drafts have had Brad Holmes and the Detroit Lions drafting anywhere from number 26 to number 29 overall in the first round. These mock drafts don't have the Detroit Lions drafting number 32. I bet you if they had drafted a Shemar Stewart, some of these mock drafts might have him going 32, because we felt like that was the missing piece of the roster. Wow, it's amazing. It's amazing how that works. Okay, so again, let me read that for you. These mock drafts have had Brad Holmes and the Detroit Lions drafting anywhere from number 26 to number 29. We stopped there. Number 29, does that put us in the NFC Championship game and losing it? I think it does. Yep, I believe it does. It puts us as a loser of a conference championship game. Because I think we were 29 last year, right? And then that's when we moved up to get Terrion Arnold. Chip Bradshaw says, give up hope. Dreams are for suckers. If you know, you know. I got you. All right. And in the first round, with a heavy emphasis on the edge position. Again, I think what we're all doing is hoping we beat Brad Holmes into submission. We bend his will. But he has shown that the pimp hand is strong. Guide my pimp hand and make it strong, Lord. If you know, you know. Hashtag. If you know, you know. Use the hashtag. All right. So without further ado, let's look at who the draft pundits have the Detroit Lions selecting in the first round next year. And it is none other than the guy that is on the thumbnail, edge rusher Cassius Howell from Texas A&M. Howell is presently being mocked by the following: ESPN Jordan Reed. So ESPN Jordan Reed says, as Reed writes, the Lions surprisingly did not draft an edge rusher until the 6th round this year, Ahmed Hassanin. Aiden Hutchinson played only 5 games last season, broken leg, but he was still the only Lions player with more than 4 sacks. Howell who could be a big riser in this class, can help. He spent much of 2024 behind Shamar Stewart and Nick Scorton, but starred in the Las Vegas Bowl, finishing with a sack and an interception. It's just amazing. It's amazing that the entire NFL is looking at the Detroit Lions like, you needed an edge rusher, bud. And Brad Holmes is like, no, I do not. I do not understand the question. Brad Holmes is like, George Bush doesn't care about black people. Tactical Sports is not going to happen. Detroit Fan Man says, so Brad doesn't get why we crave DE. I think it's all due to Davenport. Fans think it would be a success if he is healthy for 3 games. Brad gave him a $4 million deal. Does Davenport feel any pressure? Davenport, see, and this is where it gets lost. Okay, this is how I get branded the Davenport hater and everything. I love Marcus Davenport. Okay, pause. And I feel for Marcus Davenport, pause. And I'm rooting for Marcus Davenport. I don't have to pause that one. When I saw his press conference when they were announcing his new deal and he met with the media and everything, I saw a broken man. I saw a tactical sport. Really. I saw a tactical sport up there. A broken man whose hopes and dreams have been, dashed, but he's hanging on. He's hanging in there. Okay. He just wants to stay healthy. Just like all the rest of us. Right? That's what Marcus Davenport is all of us. Marcus Davenport wants Marcus Davenport to stay healthy, just like all of us want Marcus Davenport to stay healthy. Right? Keep hope alive. Exactly. That's the only pressure he feels. Because if he were able to do that, then we already know he would be a dog and he would be that bookend to Aiden Hutchinson. And they would form a formidable duo. Right? Yeah, it would be like Sackman and Robin. You know what I mean? But no one believes, except for Brad Holmes. And if you look at the deal, it is $4.75 million in incentives. It is completely incentive laden. I think the guarantee is like the veteran minimum. Okay. He's got to reach those incentives. He's got to reach playtime incentives. He's got to reach production incentives, because that's what these incentives are. Playtime, production, it hinges upon him being on the field. So yes, that's the only pressure he feels. As a player, I don't think he feels any pressure at all. He doesn't need to feel any pressure. He's 6'6", 260 and can run through your face. So very violent hands, powerful man. Okay. Now, could he beat a gorilla? No. But he is powerful. All right. So then Danny Dennis, edge. Danny Dennis Sutton, Penn State edge is another one that we're getting. Dennis Sutton is currently being mocked by the following: PFF. Okay, now everybody was talking about how Brad Holmes had a PFF draft, and okay, PFF is the one that, and PFF gave him a good grade. I think it gave him an A or something like this. Okay, here's the thing: PFF told you he had a good draft, but then they're like, next year though, Brad, you might need to go ahead and address this situation. Okay. And we need to, depending on the outcome of specific games. Okay. I don't care what happens against the, what's a random team? The Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay. I don't care what happens against the Pittsburgh Steelers, because right now the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback is Mason Rudolph and Will Howard. They drafted Will Howard in like the 5th round. Now, I don't know if he's better than Mason Rudolph. Will Howard he won a national championship at some bum ass school, but he was responsible for one of the worst pro days ever. Speaking of really, really bad, not pro days, combine. Speaking of really, really bad combine, Tyler Shaw, whatever his name is, didn't have a good combine, and he was still drafted over Shedeur Sanders. I get trying to teach the young man a lesson, but you're just wasting draft picks at this point. Like there were quarterbacks who probably will be out of the league in 2 years that were drafted a week ago. Kawach says this is Dan Campbell's fault too. I would say in a roundabout way. But see, Dan Campbell's job is not to create dissension and buck at Brad Holmes. Now, if something and again, so this falls in line with my point. Specific games next year, and I'm going to keep pointing to these 4 games. Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Jaden Daniels. If we get our asses beat in all 4 of those games because they doubled and tripled Hutch, and depending on where those games are in the season, right now we believe that Marcus Davenport probably would be healthy for one of them. Okay, so that means we got Josh Pascal out there again. We got Levi Onwuzurike back out there again. Okay. And so because we have Josh Pascal, one of Josh Pascal or Levi Onwuzurike, they're like, yeah, we've seen this movie before. Double and triple Hutch. Give help over there to his side. And, we'll concentrate on this side of the field with the guys that can't get to the passer. Lamar, run out and dance in front of Josh, because he ain't going to get you to the ground anyway. So, buy yourself some time. Go over his direction. Stay far away from Hutch. Right? Jalen, go over there to Josh Pascal. Stay far away from Hutch. Jaden, same thing. Patrick, same thing. Right? If this happens, then that's when we need to be on Brad Holmes' head. Like, as a fan base, and we're just talking about the edge rusher position. Okay? Because that's another thing. Like, Brad Holmes has done a masterful job. He constructed a roster that went 15-2 last season with a massive amount of injuries. And we were all excited about what he did and the players that he brought in to keep the ship afloat. Brad Holmes has done a fantastic job. The one thing he hasn't done is draft a competent edge rusher on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson. Not elite, not super fantastic, not super califragilisticexpialidocious. Not any of those things. Just competent. A guy that can also win one-on-ones. Whose pass rush win rate is not below 5%. That's what we're asking for. Right? If you told me I'm getting a guy whose pass rush win rate, his pass rush win rate is 10% on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson, well, goodness, I'd be happy. Right? Because that means every 10 snaps he wins a pass rush. So that's what? Basically once every 4 drives, he has the opportunity to sack a quarterback. Right? So let's say you get 10 drives a game. I know I'm getting very nerdy right now, but I'm just saying. Let's say you get 10 drives a game as an offense, right? I think you usually get more. So let's say 16 drives. Okay, and this makes sense the way I'm doing it. Let's say you get 16 drives in a game on offense. This person with the 10% pass rush win rate has a chance to get 4 sacks in that game. Because I said once every 4, right? He wins a pass rush once every 4 drives. And I'm assuming that each drive is a 3-play drive. Okay, because I can't like speculate. So I'm just saying each drive is a 3-play drive. Right? Let's say that one of them is a 4-play drive. So then we're talking about a 1 in 3 drive chance. Okay? So this is what I'm saying. 10% and finish. Like, make good on that 10%. Make good on that one pass rush that you win in every 10 pass rushing snaps. And let's get a sack. You understand what I'm saying? That's all. Detroit Fan Man says somehow MGM ranked Hutch and Davenport as the 4th best DE combo in the league this week. Hope either is healthy to play. I believe Hutch will be healthy to play. Hutch's injury was 2 broken bones, and it was the cleanest break possible, which is why he's done with his rehab. He's already finished with the rehab. No more rehabbing for him. Now he's back to regular stuff. Running, lifting, all that regular stuff that he has to do to get back into football shape. And obviously he's going to have to go through training camp. And he's got extra time this year because of the Hall of Fame game. So we're going to have a longer training camp this year. Right? So Hutch, I don't have any problems with. I think he'll be completely fine. He'll be 100% ready to go when the season starts. Marcus Davenport, I don't know. It's just, he'll most likely have a brace on that arm where he tore his triceps to support it. He's back into, when I heard that press conference with him, he was back into lifting and getting power back and things of that nature. If they're both healthy throughout the season, then yes, they're definitely top 5. And that's what we need, right? We need a top 5 duo so we can get to the damn quarterback. That's all. Chip Bradshaw. I wouldn't mind seeing Sanders come in and compete with Hooker for the number 2 spot. Well, I mean, if he hadn't been drafted by the Browns, yeah. But obviously the media circus and all this stuff with Deion and all this. All right. So it says, as PFF pins, Detroit's biggest need entering the 2025 NFL draft was to find an edge defender to start opposite Aiden Hutchinson. So even PFF gave him a good grade, but they told you that your biggest need is an edge rusher to pair opposite Aiden Hutchinson. And the Lions didn't select one until the 6th round, Ahmed Hassanein. They addressed that issue here in Dennis Sutton, who has all of the traits one looks for in a potential first-round edge defender. He is tied for the most valuable returning power for edge defender in the past 2 years, according to PFF's wins above average metric, and his 75 pressures is in that span trial only TJ Parker. I don't know who TJ Parker is. Maybe that's the person that said that. All right. Now, before we move on from these people, I think this is the last edge. Yeah, because then there's wide receiver, there's offensive tackle, wide receiver. Yeah, so this is the last edge. And then we'll actually look at some of these people as far as their height, weight, speed measurements. If you know, you know. So edge Mateo Ugalele. If that's who I think it is, his brother, I don't know. Ugalele is currently being projected by the following: NBCSports.com, Eric Froten, Josh Edwards, CBS Sports. So we've got 2 people that are doing this. So as Froton opines, the brother of former FSU/Clemson quarterback DJ Ugalele, Mateo Ugalele, generated 10.5 sacks and is arguably the most disruptive edge in the Big Ten. He would form a game-wrecking duo with Aiden Hutchinson that could spell doom for NFC North offenses. Okay, Now, the only thing that I want to look at here, as I said, is their height, weight, speed. Okay, so let's start with Mateo since he's the one that's here. And I'm definitely gonna put in height, weight, speed in Google. Okay, I'm not joking. Height, weight, speed. Okay. All right. Mateo Ukulele is 6'5", 270. Okay. That's a possibility. Okay. 6'5", 270 is Mateo Ukulele. Danny Dennis Sutton, Penn State. What's his height, weight, speed? Danny Dennis Sutton, 6'5", 266. Okay. All right. So we're learning a little bit on these mock drafts. At least they are fitting the profile. Okay. Nobody under 260, but let's see how much Cassius weighs. If he was at Texas A&M, I can pretty much tell you he probably weighs similar to Shamar Stewart. All right, let's see. All right, Cassius Howell. 6'4", 245. Man. No, the price is wrong, Bob. The price is wrong. Okay, 6'4", 245. He ain't happening. Tactical Sports says, I am thoroughly convinced that Brad drafted an edge in the 6th round to spite the fans. So in that post draft presser, when he was like, I don't know, 6th round, y'all been on my ass. Pause. Is that good enough? You know 6th round's not good enough, Brad. You know that. You know ain't nobody happy about. I mean, they're hyping dude up, and we'll see what happens. I know he hasn't played football long. I know he did have production at Boise State. I know he's got a high motor, and that's fantastic. There are a lot of people that are excited about him. We'll see what happens. I can't bring myself to get excited about a 6th round draft pick. Just how, you didn't really get excited about James Houston until you saw him come on the scene and have 8 sacks in 7 games or 7 sacks in 8 games. I think it was 8 sacks in 7 games, right? You didn't really get excited about him because he played at Jackson State. A lot of people didn't even know he played at Florida originally. We just knew he was from Jackson State. And the fact that you got 19 sacks at Jackson State just wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, 19 sacks in a season is good. I don't care what the level of competition is, as long as you're playing at the university level. You're not 22 years old playing against high school and middle school kids. Okay? So that part didn't really bother me, but I know it wasn't sexy for most people because it was a small school. Boise State's not a small school per se, but the competition in a Boise State isn't comparable to the Big Ten or the SEC. Now, he did do well in their game against Penn State in their bowl game, so we'll have to see. But I'm not gonna allow myself to get excited over a 6th round rookie. Sorry. I'm sorry. Unless it was someone who was projected to go in the 1st round and then he fell all the way to the 6th because of some sort of incident. Okay. Again, remember Lyle Collins, who was supposed to go in like the top 10, and he got drafted by the Cowboys in the 7th round because someone threw around the word murder around his name. And he dropped way down. Flying Hawaiian says the dude's name is ukulele. It's not ukulele, it's ukulele. Ukulele. I think he's a Pacific Islander as well. Um, Chris Bird says my man's is a Ziggy type of project. You can see the motor and needs polish. Needs to add a big Z or a vet that can teach him the way. Right. Yeah, we need to add a vet. We need to add a vet. And I want to get into that one too before we go. Let's see. Because here's the thing, and this fits with what I was talking about with Kirby Joseph. Detroit Lions draft pick is refusing to say Michigan, so that's Tyleek. You know, this is why we don't mess with Ohio State players, bro. Let's see. Okay, here it is. Here's that article that I wanted to show you. It says this is from lastwordonsports.com, written by Sue Levine. It says how the Lions can re-sign two critical veterans with creative accounting. The Detroit Lions front office had a busy offseason. However, the Lions have critical personnel issues that require creative accounting. While the world... No, this is just a caption for the picture. How the Lions can re-sign two critical veterans with creative accounting using creative accounting to stay within the Lions salary cap. In addition to exercising the fifth-year options for Aiden Hutchinson and Jameson Williams, Brad Holmes and the Lions front office acquired 7 new free agents and negotiated contracts for 18 other players, including Kirby Joseph's new 4-year, $85 million agreement. However, with so many players' contracts extending simultaneously, the Lions needed creative accounting measures to stay within the salary cap. Taking advantage of option bonuses, as we talked about before, spread over 5 years, the Lions were able to include a portion of non-guaranteed money, paying the amount forward. The non-guaranteed dollar amount isn't effective until that year's bonus is exercised. It's insurance for the team if the player is traded or released before the future calendar year. Joseph is now the NFL's highest paid safety after leading the league with 9 interceptions. However, instead of the Lions absorbing the full salary cap hit of Joseph's $85 million contract at $21.25 million a year, his $10 million signing bonus is spread over 5 years. The cap hit for the Lions in 2026 will be a $9.6 million option and only $2 million of the signing bonus. This saves the team $10 million against next year's salary cap. Okay, Aiden Hutchinson's Lion contract details. Okay, in 2025, the Lions will absorb a salary cap hit of $11,365,351 for Hutchinson, although his fifth-year option jumps to $19,872,000 in 2026. That figure will be much higher when the Lions negotiate a multi-year extension. Hutchinson was likely to become the Defensive Player of the Year before his injury. He recorded 12 sacks, 7 TFLs, 7.5 sacks, 12 tackles, 7 TFLs, 7.5 sacks, 17 quarterback pressures, and 1 forced fumble, an unstoppable force against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Week 2. Hutchinson was a one-man wrecking crew unleashed. He recorded 4 solo tackles, 4.5 sacks, and a forced fumble after his injury. Hutchinson focused on his recovery and getting healthy to return for the Super Bowl if the opportunity arose, which he would not have done. Fully recovered from his injury, Hutchinson is poised to pad his career resume of 122 tackles, 28.5 sacks, 4 fumble recoveries, and 4 interceptions. It's still wild to me how Aiden Hutchinson has more interceptions than Jeff Okudah. By double. All right. However, with Myles Garrett resetting the edge market, Hutchinson's next contract will be measured against Garrett's $40 million per year. Jameson Williams, Lions contract details. Despite the unfounded rumors before the draft, Mike Payton, the Lions never entertained trading Jameson Williams. He was one of the NFL's top receivers last year with 58 passes for 1,001 yards and 7 touchdowns. Williams' 82-yard touchdown reception against the Chicago Bears was Detroit's longest in 14 years. Admittedly, Williams had a rocky start, but he finally justified the team's patience and faith in 2024. When Dan Campbell was asked who the team's most improved player was, he responded, "Give me one player who is the most improved from that start to finish over that time. J-Mo is that guy right now. He is a man on a mission." Williams will earn approximately $3.1 million in 2025 with a cap hit of $5,419,000. His fifth-year option in 2026 will pay $15,493,000. However, if Williams continues his current trajectory, he could earn approximately $30 million per year if the Lions sign a multi-year extension. For naysayers who still think the Lions plan to trade Williams, that would trigger a dead cap payout of $17,825,656. The Lions would lose a key playmaker in a very costly and unlikely scenario. Let me read that for you again. For the people in the back that believe J-Mo is still going to be traded. For the naysayers who think the Lions plan to trade Williams, that would trigger a dead cap payout of $17,825,656. So this is almost $18 million of dead cap money if you trade Jameson Williams. The Lions would lose a key playmaker in a very costly and unlikely scenario. Okay, impact on the Lions' 2025 salary cap. NFL salary cap rules are complex and can be somewhat deceptive. For example, during the offseason, the top 51 rule only changes the top 51 players against the team's salary cap. This gives teams additional capital to sign players without violating salary cap restrictions. I did not know that. Okay, so let's read that again. The top 51 rule only charges the top 51 players against the team's salary cap. Okay, so okay. I'm thinking something else, but you're talking about the top 51. It's like, oh, the 53-man roster. You're only really getting away with 2 guys and some practice squad players. But anyway, the 2 guys and the practice squad players don't count against the salary cap, I guess. That's what it's saying. So it only charges the top 51 players against the team's salary cap. This gives teams additional capital to sign players without violating salary cap restrictions. Sorry. With almost $43 million remaining, the Lions have the most cap space available in 2025 after the New England Patriots and Las Vegas Raiders. Even accounting for the most recent additions to Detroit's roster, the Lions have capital to spend in 2025. However, Holmes is ever mindful of the contract extensions that await in 2026. Brian Branch, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, and Sam Laporta are all extension eligible next year when their rookie contracts expire. In addition, Jake Bates, Alex Anzalone, Khalif Raymond, and Amik Robertson are only under contract through the 2025 season. Branch, Gibbs, Campbell, and Laporta will be extended. Bates can look forward to an extension after proving himself to be one of the top kickers in the NFL. The Lions will need some accounting wizardry to extend this group next year. However, where does that leave veterans Robertson, Anzalone, and Raymond? Of the trio, premier veteran Anzalone is the top priority to be re-signed this year. Anzalone's contract with the Lions. Anzalone's 3-year, $18.75 million contract ends this season, and Detroit can't afford to lose him to free agency. In the 4 years that Anzalone has been with Detroit, he recorded 254 tackles, 201 solo, 6.5 sacks, 24 pass defenses, and 2 interceptions and 2 fumble recoveries. He is the 4th player in Detroit franchise history to record 2 back-to-back seasons with 125 plus tackles. And he missed how many games? Right? That's crazy. At 31 years of age, Anzalone isn't showing any signs of slowing down. He was on pace to match his 2023 career best season, 129 tackles, 71 solo, 3.0 sacks, 6 passes defense, and a fumble recovery. when he was injured last year. Anzalone returned in week 18 for the critical divisional game against the Vikings. He was superb that night and a big reason for the Lions' 31-9 victory. Just a reminder, Vikings fans, we beat that ass twice last year. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled program. Here we go. And this is what y'all have all been waiting for. If you are ready, put your thinking caps on and follow me down this path. Follow me down the yellow brick road, if you will, because we're talking about salary cap, accounting wizardry, yellow brick road. You get it. I know you get it. I know you do. You get it. All right. The Lions need creative accounting to extend Anzalone and bring back Za'Darius Smith. Bring back Za'Darius Smith. The Jello pudding good. Za'Darius. Okay. Anyway. I do not condone the actions of one Bill Cosby. I just do an all right impression. Sometimes I do. But I don't. It's just the voice. I don't do any of the other stuff that he does. Allegedly. All right. The cap hit for Anzalone's 2025 contract is $7,258,823, with $6,100,000 due in cash. The contract has a void year payment of $2,100,000 for 2026, with a dead cap value of $2,400,000. If the Lions and Anzalone part ways, this money will be absorbed as dead money and will hit the team's salary cap. All right. And will hit the team's salary cap, making it more difficult to sign or retain other players. But if the Lions renegotiate Anzalone now with some creative accounting, the team can restructure the void year $2.1 million payment into a new contract. In addition, also pay attention to what this means for Kerby Joseph's contract, because remember we said if he doesn't get re-signed, then he's got an automatic $39 million cap hit. Boom, right there. But if they renegotiate his contract, that $39 million goes away. Remember how I said the salary cap wasn't real? Well, when you can hide money and move it and do this, that, and the third thing and say one day it counts against your salary cap and the other day it doesn't count against your salary cap, well, what's going on? Creative accounting. That's why we're talking about this right now. All right. So, in addition to extending Anzalone, veteran edge Za'Darius Smith should be re-signed for 2025. Smith was let go for financial reasons arising from his contract with the Cleveland Browns. However, his contribution to the Detroit Lions was significant. A proven talent, Smith provided a big boost for Detroit's injury-riddled defense last season. Despite being with the Lions for only 8 games, he had 12 tackles, 1 forced fumble, and Smith's 4 sacks were the team's second highest. In addition, with his injury, with his energy, enthusiasm, and veteran experience, he is a great fit for Detroit. Why the Lions roster needs these 2 critical veterans. Aided by the return of a healthy Marcus Davenport and the additions of first-round pick DT Tyleik Williams and dedicated rookie Ahmed Hassanein, the Lions defense appears to be in good shape. However, it's rare for a rookie to become an immediate starter in week 1. Some rookies take longer to transition from college to pro football. Last season's premature playoff exit revealed a gaping hole in the Lions defense. Although Holmes' strategic free agency and draft acquisitions strengthened the team's roster, more depth and veteran experience are needed, particularly at the edge position. As impressive as Jalen Hurts' performance was, the Eagles' defense won the Super Bowl last year. If the Lions are to overcome that final hurdle to make the Super Bowl, Holmes needs to secure the best possible talent for the roster. That means the Lions must employ creative accounting to re-sign Anzalone and Smith. Shout out Sue Levine. Shout out to you for that article. It was great. It was fantastic. You didn't really, expand and expound too much about the creative accounting that's needed, but you did talk about some things that we've already touched on here on this channel. So it's further proof and further evidence that the salary cap, when managed correctly, is not here. It's not real. It cannot hurt you. Tactical Spork says he may refuse to say Michigan, but has he ever beat Michigan? No, he hasn't. Waiting. Chris Bird says waiting to see by training camp or after who we can pick up. Flying Hawaiian says and then renegotiate on top of it all. Salary cap may be real, but it's still a farce. Right. It's a word. It's a real word. It has a meaning. Salary cap. But all right. So Tactical Sports says there's a video that explains the NFL salary cap on YouTube. I'll add it to the Discord. Bet. And I will check that out. All right, peeps. So today's show is going to be a shorter one. I mean, obviously we went over the hour already, and generally I hang out and kick it with y'all for another 30 minutes or maybe even another hour. But, you know, today I got some good sleep on the sleep in. But when you get good sleep on the sleep in, you don't get to work early. You don't get the early start. So I'm going to go ahead and head out to work. And I will check y'all out next week. I will clip this salary cap article and explanation. I'll put that up on my channel and all these things. And Tactical Sport, when you send me that video, I'll probably look at it over the weekend and then make a video talking about it, confirming that the salary cap is not real. I hope that's what it confirms, because that's what I'm saying. That's my argument, and I'm sticking to it. It's my story. All right, y'all. So appreciate you once again. Motor City Cats, we back at it. We came to give you stats, none of that static. Whatever you do, make sure you keep your lines news pragmatic. And I won't be clipping it because it stopped recording. I don't know when it stopped recording. Yeah, you got to clear the space beforehand. Flying Hawaiian, yes. I will give you the link to the Discord if you would like to join it. Let me see. One second. Bloody, bloody, blah, bloody, bloody, blue. All right, here's what we're gonna do here. Just two. All right. Invite you. All right. All right, Flying Hawaiian, that is the Discord link. So go ahead and hit it, join, say what's up, and we'll see y'all on the other side. Again, we are out. Peace.